What's up guys, welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. So I'm trying out a new video style today where I am just going to film what I'm working on and keep you guys in the loop. So hopefully you enjoy this style of video. We'll see how it turns out. But today I have done a few things. One, I finally switched over and got insurance put on the KZ750. So now we just need to go get a state inspection and then go to the tag office and actually get the license plate for it, and then we can start to put some real street miles on that bike. That's the plan, because we are in full-blown riding season here in Texas. It's like 76, 78 degrees today. So I want to make sure I take advantage of all of that good weather, and this is the bike we're going to be doing it on. So one step closer to getting that on the road. Next update is I've rearranged the shop a little bit, as you guys can tell. So basically this lift, as you know, used to be kind of right in the center right here. The second lift used to be way back where the little Kawasaki mini bike is. I did a bunch of different configurations on paper and kind of moved stuff around. And originally I was thinking of, putting the lifts at an angle against the wall over here. And then what I decided was, well, let me just see if I can bring it back a little bit, turn it, and then match that with the other lift. And as you can see, I have tons of walking room. I can wheel bikes back here to the future kind of metal fabrication area, and I can easily pull bikes off right next to the car. It's a little bit tight over here. There's like 2.5 or 3 feet from the corner to my toolbox, but where you're doing the majority of the work is, right here on the side, and there's plenty of room. The idea is the bike that's under construction, I can have the parts over here. The bike that's under construction on that lift, the parts can be on that side on the workbench. So I think this layout is going to work out pretty well. We are going to keep trying it out for a couple of weeks, and then we can always, of course, adjust it as needed. So this is the bike we're going to be working on today. This is a customer bike, 78 CB750. We've already done a ton of work to it. Start from the front. We've already chopped and brushed the fender. We rebuilt the whole braking system with the new pads, new, I think that even the whole caliper is new. We went with a stainless steel braided line, brand new master cylinder, all that set up. We did MCO headlight mounts with a new smaller headlight. As you can see, this is the name of the game today is going to be figuring out the whole wiring harness for this bike. This is a Delcovic exhaust that's been wrapped. It's only about halfway done because I ran out of wrap and needed to order some more, which already came in. So we have that so we can finish the full 4-into-1 wrap with a Cone Engineering muffler, which is obviously my go-to. I run it on like all of my projects because I love it. We vapor blasted the carbs. We pulled the engine, completely painted it all black, sanded the fins down to have the nice brushed finish so everything's not super blacked out. The tank, we're going to be running a earlier style CB750 tank. You can see I've started to strip off some of the terrible sparkly purple paint that was on the tank. We're going to be painting that this is what the customer picked out. It's like an automotive touch-up paint for Avignon Blue, Avignon. I have no idea what car. Looks like Honda, some Honda color. I think it's going to look pretty good. It's kind of like a bluish color, and that's going to match really well with the brown grips and also the brown tough side flat seat that we have. So it'll be black, brown, brushed, and blue is like the kind of main color groups. We did a rear hoop. This one I did section in the LED strip on the back so that it's not just stuck on the back, it's actually sectioned into the tube itself. The wire pops out right here. Side covers are going to be that same blue color. Pod filters. I think that's pretty much everything. Painted the rear wheel, kept the rear drum brushed so that we didn't have everything blacked out, all blacked out shocks. It's going to look really good. I'm excited with how this bike's going to turn out. We have clip-ons, we have the shaved triple I mentioned in a previous video, little universal speedo. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to be working on the wiring harness. So I started off with a brand new main harness from 4-into-1. 4into1.com is my go-to for a lot of parts. They're not a sponsor or anything yet. I do have an account with them because I end up buying a lot of stuff, but they're a great source for kind of original Honda parts. They do a lot of reproduction stuff. So this is a reproduction harness that they put together, and basically it replaces your main harness from the back of the bike all the way up into the headlight. So all of these wires and plugs and everything are all brand new, which is just so much easier to deal with than a crusty old harness. The one that came out of this bike was totally butchered, chopped up, just random wires kind of missing and cut, and it just, for the cost of this new harness, it was worth replacing. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm using these universal style switches the customer picked up. So on this side it's just 2 buttons on the front that like click down and stay, and then on the back is like a momentary button. So we're going to do like left turn signal, right turn signal, and then the horn on this side. Same button on the other side we are going to utilize for the momentary button I put on the bottom here. That's going to be the engine start. The one above that is probably going to be low beam headlight. So that'll turn on the headlight, it'll turn on the light in the gauge, and it'll also turn on the tail light. And then the one in the front is going to be high beam. So that'll turn on, of course, the high beam indicator, and the gauge as well. And then the last piece of the puzzle is we have a little toggle switch that's going to go on the handlebar as well, and that's going to be our main kill switch for the bike. So we're going to work on all that. I'm going to kind of get to work, and I'll bring you guys back as we make a little bit of progress. Figured now would be a good time to give you guys an update and also a quick rundown should you want to do this to your own bike. So if you're looking to replace your big stock switches on your classic Honda, basically you can get away with this setup. You need quite a few buttons just because of all of the different systems involved. You'll also lose a little bit of functionality, but most people won't notice. I'm not going to bother to wire in the park lights to where if you turn the key on one, click, the whole bike is on normally. The next click over is like parking lights. It just keeps your tail light on. I don't understand why you would need to do that. I guess if you're parking on a really dark road and you're parking on the street and you want to leave your tail light on. I have personally never done that or known anybody that's done that. So if you wanted to do that, that could absolutely be done. We're not bothering on this project. So basically what I did is every one of these buttons basically needs a key on power, because we need to take that power and then we need to send it to whatever components we want to turn on with that switch. Classic Hondas make it pretty easy, and the solid black wires are key on power. There's a bunch of them. There's like, I think probably 6 or 7 open connections in the headlight, even on the stock wiring harness for key on power. So we take a key on power, this is for the low beam headlight, key on power into, one side of the switch. The other side of the switch comes out and connects to this black with a red stripe. What that does is it runs to the back of the bike to the stock headlight fuse, goes through the fuse, comes back up in a brown wire with a red stripe, and then that's the wire we then connect to not only our low beam for the bulb itself, but also the light in the gauge itself, so the gauges illuminate at night. So now we can turn on the key. If I can do it with one hand. Stand by. Okay, turn on the key. We can hit this top button, and that turns on our low beam. It turns on our gauges, and then I don't have a tail light hooked up right now, but the solid brown wire is now energized so that, when we get our tail light hooked up to that, the tail light would be on as well. So that's pretty easy. The next one is going to be, we'll do the start switch. So start is a key on power, again, black to one side. You're gonna want this one to be the momentary switch. So the one that you have to hold it down for it to make connection. And then when you let off, it lets off. Otherwise you could click on and then your starter motor is just gonna keep running and the bike starts and the starter motor keeps running, and you definitely don't want that to happen. So you want this to be a momentary switch. Key on power to one wire, the other wire goes to this yellow with a red stripe. That goes straight back to your starter solenoid and triggers it. So that one's literally just that, 2 wires. Next thing is high beam. So I did high beam on the front here. So the difference between this setup and a stock setup is when you turn on your high beam, technically the low beam stays on as well with this setup. Because if you had a 3-position switch, it would be easier because you could have key on power and then one direction would trigger the entire low beam system to the other one would trigger the high beam system. But this way you have your low beam on and you can just turn on your high beam. It still keeps your tail light on. It still keeps your gauge on. Everything else stays the same as it should. You also have the ability to just flash the high beam, should you be driving down the road and you need to, flash when you're passing somebody or to, let somebody know they're safe to turn or whatever reason you want to flash your high beams, you can do that without having to turn on the tail light and all the other systems. So basically it's, again, key on power. Out of the key on power, it goes into splitting off to one wire goes to the high beam on the bulb. The other one goes to our high beam indicator wire, so that when we hit the button, our high beam turns on, and also our little blue high beam indicator turns on as well to let us know that it's on. And then again, this doesn't interrupt anything with the low beam system, so your tail light and everything will all work the same as it should. Last one I'm going to tell you guys about is the kill switch itself. On Hondas, kill switches are pretty simple. It's basically, again, key on power on one side, and then it sends the power to these black with a white stripe, and these go to each coil respectively. So there's 2 coils on these 4-cylinder bikes. That's where they get their power. So it goes into the switch, out of the other switch, into the black with a white stripe. Back here, when we get our coils installed, both of these are only energized when that switch is in the on position. Otherwise, they are off, which means when the bike is running, should you kill that power, it's going to kill power to the coils, and that's how you're going to turn your engine off. So that one's pretty simple as well. Now I will move on to the left side of the bike, which is going to be our turn signals left and right, and the front is going to be the horn. Went ahead and finished the next round of wiring. So I did the turn signals, the horn, I wired up the tail light, and that has the rear signals in it as well. Also the brake light switches, the neutral indicator, and the oil pressure. So let me kind of run through everything. We'll turn the key on. One day I'm going to learn to do this before I start the camera so I can do it with one hand. Okay. Key on, everything's energized. Let's see, we should have an oil pressure light and a neutral light. We do. Let me put it in first gear. Oh, it's hard without the bike moving. There, oh, there we go. First gear, back to neutral. Boom. So neutral light works. Oil pressure light's going to stay on until, of course, the engine builds oil pressure. Both of those lights are ground controlled. So you have key on power for one side of the light, and then you have a ground trigger wire. That's a blue with a red stripe for oil pressure, and it's like a light blue or light green with a red stripe for the neutral light. Hopefully I didn't get those backwards. So we have that. Then we have, yeah, I'll show you the tail light. So I should be able to turn on my headlight. We have a tail light there. Pull the front brake lever. We have a brake light. That was super easy. There's just on this master cylinder a little switch under here that just basically connects it when the lever is pulled. Key on power to one side. The other side goes to the tail light wire, which on Hondas is green with a yellow stripe. What else can we show? Signals. So top is going to be left signal. Oh, no, top is the right signal. That's right, because I tried to think of if you did it with a hand gesture. If you're going right, your hand goes up. So the top is right. So you can see it flashing over there. Should be flashing back here. And then we should have our indicator light on. We do. Turn it off, go left signal. Flashing up there. Flashing back here, indicator light is on. So I used one of my diodes that you guys should be familiar with. I sell them on my site. It's in this jumble of wire somewhere, to basically split those two turn signal power sources into one power source that we can run the indicator light off of, and it won't backfeed into the other side. Another cool benefit of this, you know, should you ever break down on the bike or something, you can click on both of these and have like a hazards, you know, which is something you can't do with the factory signals. So kind of an extra benefit of that. Hold your ears, we're gonna test the horn. Oof, God, that was intense. I think that's pretty much the majority of it. The only thing left to wire is gonna be the coils, which is super easy, literally a blue and a yellow that come from the points, the two black with a white stripe for power, and then this is gonna be a more official ground. We are gonna be doing a Dyna S electronic ignition in this bike, so that will be one of the next videos you see on this, is I'm gonna show you guys how to install that. I'll probably get the bike up and running first with the original point ignition, because it's always a good thing to do of starting with a good running bike before you start to tear into the ignition system, just to take all the other variables. And since we've changed so much about this bike, I want to get it back to running condition and then do the electronic ignition. So I've never actually heard this bike run. The owner tells me that the bike has kind of putted around the block, but personally, I've never heard it run. So that's still to be determined. But that'll be in the next video or two. You guys will see me get everything done to the point of getting it running, and then again, upgrade that ignition. Went ahead and actually buttoned up the whole headlight. So that's all nice and hidden away. I ended up making a little extension for the ignition switch plug, because factory, I think it plugs up here somewhere. We want to hide it either under the tank in front of the head or behind the head, possibly even right above the carburetor filters. We'll kind of see where it fits best. So I just made like a 18-inch extension so that we have some flexibility on where we want to mount that. We'll wait to do that until the coils are mounted and the tank is on and everything, to make sure it doesn't obviously interfere with anything. Other than that, I went ahead and finished up the exhaust as well. So this is a Delcovic 4-into-1 wrapped, and then to a Cone Engineering 12-inch universal shorty muffler. It's the go-to exhaust setup for a lot of my projects, and it sounds fantastic, and this bike will be no exception. So it's all wrapped and all tightened up and everything, so that's all good to go. Well, that's the end of my workday, guys. I hope you enjoyed this style of video. It's something I'm probably gonna continue to do, assuming you guys like it. Basically just film what I do in a given day. That'll help me create a lot more content for you guys. Hopefully you can learn something along the way, or at least be entertained with kind of what I have going on. It'll be good, because I'll be getting customer bikes done, and we'll be making progress on that, and then also pumping out content for you guys. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you guys have any questions on, rewiring a Honda to run different switches or kind of anything else, and we'll see you guys very soon on the next video.